Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be reviewing Captain America, Prisoner of War. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent, and today we're going to be reviewing Captain America, Prisoner of War by Ed Brubaker, Mike Deodato Jr., Butch Guice, and Chris Samney. Now, before we get into the review, let me ask you to please do one thing. Please subscribe. Helps me out, lets you know when I drop new videos, helps the channel grow, all that great stuff. On to the review. So, let's call this the finale of our Bucky Cap review saga, right? This is the last trade before Brubaker kind of takes a break, before this title ends, before Fear Itself happens, which is a Marvel Comics event. We will be reviewing that next on the channel. And then following that, we'll call it the denouement or whatever, the 12-issue Winter Soldier series that Brubaker has written with, I think Michael Lark is on there as well. I have never read that before. I've read all these, so I don't know what to expect with that. But I am reading Fear Itself because this trade ends with a exclamation of "to be continued" in Fear Itself. So that is definitely part of the story. It's not really, here it is, I found the page. To be continued in Fear Itself. That's not written by Brubaker, it's written by Matt Fraction. I do remember reading it. It's got beautiful art by Stuart Eminem, but we will talk about that on a different video. So, this is the last trade of the original Brubaker Cap run, if you want to call it. Yeah, he goes on to do more with Steve Rogers in the next series, but I think there was a bit of a break in between. This title had switched over to its original numbering, so this contains 616 through 619. One of these is another anniversary issue. Like, Brubaker had been on Cap for, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. This is a long time. I remember reading the 60th anniversary issue in one of those trades. The 70th anniversary issue, I think, is in the Road to Reborn. And then there's another anniversary issue, or at least there's an anniversary cover in here in the back for 616. So this book actually is it's the end of the Bucky Cap era. Bucky is no longer Cap. At the end of the last book, he was taken out of the U.S. courthouse by the Russians and had been exchanged over there for some miraculous trial that had already been held years ago, that he'd been found guilty of murdering Russian citizens in their own country. So he had already been agreed to be extradited over to there, and that is where we pick up the story. Sometime later, he's already in the Russian prison, which is part of the story that is called Gulag. So we're also following Steve Rogers trying to get his friend out of jail in part of the storyline. And then the third part is Sharon Carter and Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, in Russia, trying to find out all the secret stuff that is the reason why Bucky is over there and being tortured and stuff like that. So Bucky's not really wearing a uniform. Steve is wearing his super soldier outfit. This is the outfit that inspired the Captain America Winter Soldier movie outfit, plus a helmet, plus a shield, obviously. But Bucky's he's not even in this uniform. He does have the arm, but he's wearing this striped orange and black outfit most of the time. I gotta say, this storyline, this trade, whatever you want to call it, collection, had the best, most consistent artwork out of the last few that we've read after the death of Captain America. I mean, yeah, you can talk about Brian Hitch does all of Reborn, which is good in itself, but again, it wasn't the best you've seen Brian Hitch ever do. This has Mike Deodato doing the first Gulag part in here, and he's phenomenal. He's still phenomenal. So he's really consistent. You have Ed McGuinness doing like the first tale. He's really good. But I'm really talking about Butch Guice here at the end when he does the Gulag stuff with Bucky. This is the Butch Guice that I remember. This is his style. I really love this Butch Guice. Let me find out who's inking him here, because it makes a big difference. Gulag. Stefano Gudiano. Okay, so he's a known inker. He's worked with Brubaker and Rucka before on the Gotham Central run. I can't remember if he was an inker or a major, or one of the main artists on that book. But regardless, if he's doing the inks over Butch Geist, he's phenomenal, because it makes Butch Geist look amazing. As you know, we were reading Two Americas, and I was complaining that you put different inkers on Butch Geist, and he makes him look a little old or more classic style than his normal, usual scratchy stuff. Chris Samnee is an artist that I have come to appreciate. Now, his stuff next to Butch Geist's does stick out like a sore thumb, because their styles are completely different. Chris Samnee is this guy right here doing this spread. This is part of the Super Soldier run, or the storyline where Steve Rogers is trying to find out what happened to Bucky. So he's got this very simplified, cartoony, more classical comic book style, heavy on the blacks, heavy on the inks. And at the time, I did not like this style. I did not like it at all. I'm reading Robert Kirkman's Firepower now as it comes out, and he is the main artist on here. And while he's come a long way from this stuff, I now appreciate this style. When I remember reading it when it was coming out years ago, when I was still buying the floppies like physically. I hated it. Now I'm in love with it. I don't know. Can't give you an exact reason why. It's just clicking with me now, but it's still good. 10 years prior, he's still a good artist. I just didn't realize it then. So my fault, Chris Samnee, if I've ever said anything bad about your style. I appreciate it now. But yeah, this Butch Geist stuff, look at this. This is phenomenal stuff. It's a shame that this Butch Geist wasn't present, whether it's the combination of inkers and colors and stuff. It's just a shame that this level of Butch Geist we did not get in the last couple of trades with the Captain America stuff. Because this is the Butch Geist that I want to read. I mean, this is phenomenal artwork. So that's what I mean, and this is the best artwork you've seen in a Captain America trade in a long time. It's the most consistent because everybody is delivering their A game to it, and it helps tell the story. I mean, the story here is good. You have everybody putting the clues together. Everything's kind of happening simultaneously. Bucky is getting beaten up in the gulag at the same time that Steve Rogers is tasking Sharon and Natasha to go find out some secret KGB files as to why he was over there in the first place, and then the ensuing, result, let's call it, of Natasha, going to get Bucky at the very end. So it does kind of end on a cliffhanger. Like, there's no real resolution to Bucky's story other than, yeah, he does realize, like, thematically that he didn't need to redeem himself as Captain America, and Steve has some conversations with some other politicians and our carefully shrouded black president so as to tell people it's Obama, who was president at the time this was coming out, but is not to really call out and say Obama. Marvel Comics loves to do this. They'll always stick the current president in the comics at the time, but they'll like put his face half in shadow. I remember some 90s Marvel Comics when Clinton was still in there. He had that big crop of like tall silver hair. When Bush was in power, or Bush was president, again had that like slicked over Texan look he had at the time. Same thing here with Obama. Can't put a black president in Marvel Comics when it takes place in the present day. Like, they've never had a different president than we do. So it's clearly Obama, and that's just fine. But the main theme that we're going on here is that Bucky didn't deserve this punishment. He does deserve to wear the shield, even if he doesn't want it. But the over thing that starts creeping in as Bucky, with the last trade paperback, The Trial of Captain America, and this one, is the question of, and this kicks off with the story, does there need to be a Captain America? And people start looking to Steve to pick up the shield again, and Steve is very reluctant. He's, doesn't want to do it necessarily. He wants to live a normal life. This is the first chance he's had since, he was a young man, a young boy in World War II, to not have this weight of the world on his shoulders, and he can make his own decisions, and he's not looked at as some symbol, some iconographic person. But at the same time, when Captain America's not around, there are other people that think that there does need to be a Captain America, and Steve feels responsible for these people and making sure that they're okay. Or, he tells one guy specifically, like, you're going to stop this. And he's like, dude, I may stop, but there are going to be other people that are going to pick up the shield and the flag so to speak, because there needs to be a Captain America. Not everybody feels the same way that you do. I'm pointing my pinky to Cap right here. That's kind of funny. So we see this genesis of what will lead Steve to do what he does in Fear Itself, and then have the next series where it's Brubaker writing Captain America with Steve Rogers back in the Stars and Stripes, holding the shield. So we start that theme here. So it's all working together, and I think I enjoyed this. I'm enjoying talking about this actually too, more than I enjoyed talking about the Trial of Captain America. You have to read Trial to understand what's going on in here, but you should definitely read Trial in order to definitely read this, because I think this is a phenomenal story and a phenomenal collection. It just sadly doesn't really wrap up the Cap, Steve, Bucky storyline that we've had over the last, 75 issues probably at this point, at the end of this run. Again, it's hard to tell because they switched the numbering over to the new numbering. But we're at 619, so if you go and it went over to 600 after issue 51. So yeah, 50 plus 19, so 70 issues, 80 issues, who knows. But it's good. I really do think this is a way better read than Trial of Captain America. It just doesn't wrap everything up. And also the weird part to point out is that over these 70 issues, because of everything that's been going on, you've never really had a sit down other than the Who Will Wield the Shield special in Two Americas at the beginning of that trade paperback, where Steve and Bucky are having a conversation. I feel like there needs to be at least one issue in this entire run, of which there is not, of just Bucky and Steve going out together for a beer or a coffee or whatever, and just having a conversation, just acknowledging all the stuff that each other's been through. For Steve to acknowledge all the pain that Bucky's going through because he gave him his memories back way back in Captain America number 13. Or a conversation with Bucky acknowledging that Cap has had to live with this guilt, thinking that he was dead this whole time for, however long he's been alive after, he got frozen. Because the Marvel Universe has a sliding scale, so you can't really say, since the 60s, but if everything happened to Cap since the 60s comics, then yes, that is a long ways, a long time, a lot of stuff that's happened to Steve Rogers, and a lot of guilt over Bucky dying that he's had to carry as well. And there's never an acknowledgement between those two characters of that guilt, that pain, that suffering. And I think that is really what's missing from the end of this storyline. I feel that if that was the end, it really would have wrapped things up very nicely before the Fear Itself event, and we revert back to Steve becoming Cap. So I do know there's a Captain America or Fear Itself 7.1 at the beginning of the Winter Soldier trade paperback that we're going to read here in a little bit. But I don't remember if that is what I'm asking for. So if it is, don't jump on me in the comments. I will read it, I will review it, and we'll talk about it later at that time. But again, I think it's a phenomenal story. Even though it's split three ways, it's really, really good. It really, really shows when Brubaker's on, he's really on. And it's a shame that he was on for so long in the beginning. And then when Bucky took over and you thought that's what he wanted, he just kind of fell off for a little bit in terms of quality of storytelling. And then he ramps back up here at the very end, to kind of redeem himself. And it's a shame that he wasn't on the whole time. But again, can anybody maintain that same level of storytelling all the way through a giant run? I'd argue no. I think if you look at any run, storyline by storyline, like what you're doing here, you will find peaks and valleys in everybody's stuff. So, but again, Prisoner of War, standout book, standout story, but you gotta read everything else to really understand it. But go through it. I think this is good enough to justify continuing on past the death of Captain America, past the Road to Reborn, past Captain America Reborn. To get to this point, I think it is all worth it to read it all, because this is such a really good story. So there you go. That's the end of Brubaker's Cap. We will return with our next two videos in the series with Fear Itself and the Winter Soldier trade paperback. Those might be a little bit later in the schedule, but I hope you guys have enjoyed this look at Brubaker's Cap run with me. I've certainly enjoyed reading it again, I think for the second time. So looking forward to see what you guys think down below in the comments. Let's talk about it. We'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.